Forget what Hollywood taught you. Survival wasn't epic music, slow-motion heroics, or dramatic last words. It was cold, dirty, exhausting, and often painfully boring. And yet, humans endured. Against famine, predators, disease, and the unforgiving environment, they made it across continents, leaving only footprints, burnt fires, and broken tools behind. Welcome. Settle in, dim the lights, and imagine yourself walking alongside your ancestors. Like, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. But mostly, get comfortable. This story is long and darkly fascinating. You open your eyes to a world that doesn't care if you exist. The sun rises, the air is dry, and every living thing you see either wants to eat you, poison you, or compete with you for the one antelope stupid enough to wander into your path. Welcome to Africa, around 2,000 years ago. Forget your bed, forget your phone, forget the miracle of indoor plumbing. You're lucky if the rock you're lying on isn't hiding a scorpion. Your name doesn't matter. You don't have one. At best, people grunt something when they want your attention, probably because you're holding food or blocking the fire. Your tribe, if you can even call it that, is a group of 20 or so humans who all look about as hungry, dirty, and suspicious as you do. That's your family, your society, your entire world. You're not thinking about philosophy or art yet. You're thinking about calories and where the next ones will come from. The air smells of smoke because someone kept the fire going through the night. That fire is life. It keeps away the lions and hyenas who pace just beyond the circle of light. It makes roots edible, meat safer, and nights a little less terrifying. Of course, it also makes you a glowing beacon for anything with sharp teeth that hasn't eaten in a few days. Congratulations, you are both predator and prey at the same time. You stand up, stretching muscles that ache from sleeping on hard ground. Your feet are calloused from endless walking. Your skin is covered in dust. Hygiene isn't really a thing. You don't have soap. You don't have toothpaste. You don't have much of a chance, honestly. But somehow you keep going. The day starts with foraging. You're scanning bushes for berries, roots, maybe some honey if you feel brave enough to risk getting stung by angry bees. Everything you eat is a gamble. That fruit might give you energy, or it might send you sprinting into the bushes with cramps so bad you'll wish you were dead. There's no warning labels here, just trial, error, and the occasional funeral. Hunting is a group effort, but it's mostly depressing. You and a handful of others grab sharpened sticks and chase after gazelles who are faster, stronger, and honestly just laughing at you inside their gazelle brains. Sometimes you get lucky. More often, you walk home empty-handed. And home is just a fire pit and a patch of dirt you keep returning to until the food runs out. You don't farm, you don't herd animals, you don't even have pottery. Everything you own could fit in your hands. A stone tool, maybe a skin to carry water, and a burning resentment that your stomach is still empty. But in the evenings, there's a kind of rhythm. People sit around the fire. The light flickers on faces as stories are told. Not written, not remembered in books, just passed along in murmurs and gestures. Maybe you laugh. Maybe you argue. You're not thinking about history, but you are making it. And above you, the stars are endless. No streetlights, no airplanes, just a sky so wide it makes you feel small, which is fitting because you are. This is the cradle of humanity. It's brutal, it's exhausting, it's short. If you make it to 30, you're basically a legend. But somehow, this life keeps going. Somehow, these fragile bands of humans spread, survive, and eventually wander far beyond this place. For now, though, you're just trying not to starve before the hyenas notice you're distracted. You go to bed hungry, you wake up hungry. In fact, hunger is the most reliable companion you'll ever have. Forget love, forget friendship. Hunger is there for you every single day. It whispers in your stomach, gnaws at your ribs, and reminds you that if you don't eat something soon, you'll be the meal. The fire is still smoldering from the night before. You poke at it, blowing gently, coaxing it back to life. Fire is everything. Without it, you're just another shivering animal, praying the darkness doesn't notice you. With it, you're, well, slightly less doomed. Fire keeps the predators cautious, cooks your scavenged meat, and makes tubers chewable. It also occasionally burns down your carefully gathered pile of grass or singes off your eyebrows when you're not careful. So, pros and cons. Today's goal is the same as every day: calories. You don't think in nutrition or balanced diets. That's a luxury for people who live 10,000 years in the future and complain about carbs while staring into refrigerators full of food. No, you think in sheer survival math. Can you get more energy from this plant, this carcass, this insect, than it costs you to find it? That's the equation. Spoiler, the equation is usually depressing. Your group splits up. Some head toward the scrubby trees, searching for berries that aren't poisonous, or at least not immediately fatal. Others follow tracks in the dust, hoping they'll stumble across a wounded antelope, or better yet, the leftovers of a lion's kill. Yes, scavenging. Half the time, you're not hunters at all. You're the cleanup crew. Wait for the predators to finish their meal, then rush in, waving sticks, trying to grab a few scraps of meat before the hyenas take over. It's humiliating, but it works. Sometimes. And the smell? Oh, you'll never forget it. Half-rotten meat, buzzing with flies, still steaming in the sun. You choke it down anyway, because hunger doesn't care about your dignity. Hunger says, eat or die. And you listen. Meanwhile, back at the fire, someone's cracking open bones with a rock, trying to scoop out marrow. It's greasy, rich, life-saving stuff. Not exactly fine dining, but it's better than chewing bark all day. As the sun sets, the fire becomes the center of your fragile universe. People gather around, eyes wide and tired. The flames dance, throwing shadows against the dirt. You feel safer here, even though you're not. Outside the circle, eyes glint in the dark. Predators wait, always waiting. And then the stories begin. Not written words, not even real language yet. Just sounds, gestures, the beginnings of myths. A tale about the hunt that went wrong. A memory of someone long gone. A warning about the river where crocodiles wait. Around the fire, fear becomes story, and story becomes survival. You sit close, letting the heat lick your skin. For a moment, you almost forget the gnawing in your belly. Almost. But tomorrow morning, it'll be there again. Hunger doesn't let go. Congrats. You survived another day. The bar is low, but you cleared it. Barely. You'd like to think the world is made for you, that this landscape of grasslands, rivers, and scattered trees exists just to support your fragile little band of humans. But no, the world doesn't care. The world is hungry, just like you, and the world has teeth. Step outside your camp, and it's a roll of the dice every time. Maybe you find berries, maybe you find tracks of gazelle, or maybe you find lion tracks, which means you've just become part of someone else's dinner plans. Congratulations, you're not at the top of the food chain. You're barely clinging to the bottom rung. The predators are everywhere. Hyenas lurk in the night, their laughs drifting across the plains, reminding you that they're patient and you're squishy. Lions crouch low in the grass, eyes gleaming, waiting for someone to wander too far from the group. Crocodiles glide silently beneath rivers, the water's surface smooth, until suddenly it's not. And snakes? Yes, plenty of those too. Some big enough to wrap you up like a poorly folded blanket. And even if the animals don't get you, the land itself is dangerous. Heat beats down until your skin cracks. Water holes dry up. Storms rip across the plains. Lightning strikes set fire to the brush. You want to survive? Good luck. The climate changes, the land shifts, and no one sends you a memo. You adapt, or you die. Disease is another silent killer. You don't know what germs are, but you know that sometimes people get sick. Their skin burns, they cough, they weaken, and then they stop moving. You can't explain it, you just know it happens. And when it does, everyone else edges away because they don't want to catch whatever curse stole your friend. And if it's not nature, it's other people. Rival groups wander the same land, looking for food, just like you. When you meet, it's rarely friendly. You don't shake hands, you don't trade gifts. You size each other up, gripping your sharpened sticks, wondering who's going to make the first move. Sometimes you avoid each other, sometimes you fight. Sometimes the ground drinks more blood than the grass. You want to feel safe? Sorry, there is no safe. There is only less dangerous for now. The circle of firelight at night, the brief illusion of warmth and protection, is exactly that, an illusion. Just outside the glow, eyes gleam, claws scrape, shadows move. Your life is a balancing act between desperation and paranoia. Every noise in the dark is a threat. Every meal might be your last. Every step forward could be straight into the jaws of something faster, stronger, hungrier. And yet somehow you keep moving, because that's the only option. Stop moving and you're dead. So no, the world is not safe. It never was, and it only gets worse. You don't get to stay put. The land decides when you move, not you. The grass withers, the waterholes shrink, and the animals, the ones you depend on for food, clothing, and the occasional tragic hunting story, drift toward greener ground. So, you follow. You are not explorers, not yet. You are shadows, trailing the herds across an endless horizon. Picture it. Dust rising in the distance, the faint thunder of hooves, antelope, zebras, buffalo, entire rivers of flesh and bone moving together, sniffing out the places where life still clings. They know where to go. You don't. So you let them lead, which is slightly humiliating. Your survival strategy is basically follow something tastier than you. The walk never ends. You trudge barefoot, your feet cracked and bleeding, carrying everything you own, which is basically nothing. A stick, a stone blade, maybe a scrap of animal skin if you're lucky. Children are carried until they're too heavy, then told to keep up or fall behind. No strollers, no brakes. Just a steady march across grasslands that seem to stretch forever. Water is always the problem. Sometimes you find a muddy hole that smells like death, but you drink it anyway because thirst doesn't leave you with options. Other times, the rivers save you. You follow their bends, their trickles, their gift of fish and reeds. But rivers come with crocodiles, and crocodiles come with teeth. You keep your distance, but not too far, because thirst kills quicker than fear. And while you're walking, the predators are watching. Hyenas trail behind, sniffing for stragglers. Lions wait in the tall grass. A child slows down, a hunter limps. And suddenly, the herd you've been following isn't the only one losing members. The landscape takes what it wants. Still, there are small victories. You stumble across berries that don't make you vomit. You scare off vultures from a carcass and score a few greasy mouthfuls of meat. Someone digs up a root so bitter it makes your face twist, but at least it fills your stomach. You keep going, step after step, driven by the same hunger that drives the animals you follow. At night, the fire crackles. The smell of smoke clings to your skin. You huddle close to others, trying to trick yourself into feeling safe. The stars watch you, cold and distant, as if mocking your tiny struggle. Tomorrow, you'll walk again. And the day after that, and the day after that. No maps, no roads, just instinct, memory, and the hoof prints of animals smarter than you when it comes to finding food. Congrats, you're officially migratory, not because you want to be, but because standing still means dying where you stand. The desert is not your friend. It's not even your enemy. It doesn't notice you at all, and that's the problem. You walk into it like a bug crawling across a frying pan, and the frying pan doesn't care. The Sahara is the graveyard of optimism. During wet years, when rains fall, it can look deceptively alive. Grass patches, small lakes, even herds of animals drifting through. But then the climate shifts, as it often does, and suddenly you're standing on cracked earth, under a sun that feels like it's peeling the skin from your bones. You don't have hats. You don't have sunscreen. You don't even have shoes that make sense for this. Just calloused feet and desperation. Every step kicks up dust that fills your nose, your eyes, your mouth. You cough, you choke, and the taste of sand never really leaves. Water is the obsession. Your group rations it carefully, sipping from skins made of animal hide. You dream of rivers and shade, but what you get is heat shimmering on the horizon, mirages dancing in the distance, mocking you with lakes that don't exist. Someone stumbles toward one, believing it's real. Spoiler, it's not. And then there's the silence. The desert swallows sound. No birds, no buzzing insects, just wind and your own heartbeat pounding in your ears. Even predators avoid this place. They know better. But you don't have the luxury of avoiding it. You're crossing because behind you is hunger, and ahead of you is the faint hope of survival. Nights are worse than days. The heat vanishes, replaced by cold so sharp it bites your skin. You curl together for warmth, shaking, watching the stars blaze overhead. It's beautiful, sure, but beauty doesn't fill your stomach. Beauty doesn't stop your lips from cracking. Some don't make it. They sit down, say they'll rest for just a moment, and never get back up. The desert doesn't leave graves. The sand covers everything. Tomorrow, your footprints will be gone, as if you never existed. And yet, people survive, somehow. You chew bitter roots, dig shallow holes hoping for dampness, follow the faint paths carved by animals equally desperate for water. When the desert finally spits you out on the other side, you are thinner, harder, and far less impressed by sunshine than you used to be. You made it. But don't celebrate too much. The desert doesn't end your story. It just tests how badly you want it to continue. After the desert, rivers feel like miracles. You hear them before you see them. The low rush of water, the buzzing of insects, the rustle of reeds swaying in the breeze. You push through scrub and dust, and suddenly there it is, a line of silver cutting through the earth, a lifeline. For a moment, you almost feel safe. You splash your cracked lips, your dust-caked skin, your blistered feet. Water cools you, fills you, brings you back from the edge. It tastes muddy, full of things you can't see, but you don't care. You drink until your belly hurts. The river gives, but it also takes. Its banks are alive with dangers. Crocodiles lurk beneath the surface, their eyes peeking above the waterline. Hippos grunt in the shallows, looking almost comical until they charge and crush bones like twigs. Mosquitoes swarm in clouds, tiny winged curses carrying fevers you don't understand, but soon regret. Still, you cling to the river's edge because everything you need is here: water, food, shelter. Fishing becomes an obsession, not with hooks and rods. You don't have that technology yet. Instead, you wade in with sharpened sticks, thrusting at darting shadows, or build crude traps from branches and stones. Sometimes you succeed. Sometimes you just get wet and angrier than before. The banks also offer roots, reeds, fruits. Birds nest in the trees, eggs waiting to be stolen. You don't have farms, but the river is your pantry. Unpredictable, chaotic, but generous enough to keep you alive. Travel is easier too. The river bends and curves, showing you a path forward. You follow its shape, its rhythm. It guides you through lands you don't know, pulling you toward greener places, richer hunting grounds. Wherever the river goes, you go. At night, the firelight flickers against the water's surface. You hear frogs croak, insects hum, the distant splash of something much larger than you. You sit close to the flames, clutching your stick, trying not to think about what might be crawling up the bank behind you. But rivers also change you. They teach you patience, waiting for fish, learning the habits of the animals who come to drink. They teach you danger, that even life-giving water hides death. And they teach you movement, how to follow, how to adapt, how to keep flowing forward like the water itself. One day, your descendants will build cities along rivers, raise temples, write laws, and call themselves civilized. But for now, you're just a hungry, half-naked figure crouched in the reeds, hoping the crocodile doesn't notice you before you notice it. Congrats. You've leveled up from starving in the desert to starving slightly slower by a river. Progress. One morning, you wake up and realize the world behind you has nothing left to give. The river's thin, the herds move on, the land feels emptier than your stomach. So your small band does the only thing it can: you keep walking. And this time, you don't stop at the familiar boundaries. This time, you leave. Africa has been your entire universe. The trees, the rivers, the predators that stalked your nights. It's all you've ever known. But across the Red Sea, across narrow land bridges and shifting coastlines, lies something different, unfamiliar ground, unfamiliar smells, and you're desperate enough to try. The crossing isn't easy. You don't have ships. You don't even have proper boats. What you do have is driftwood, crude rafts, animal skins tied together with vines. Some groups wait for the sea levels to drop, exposing dry paths across shallow straits. Others gamble on floating, clinging to bundles of reeds while the waves slap salt into their eyes. Many don't make it. They sink, vanish, and the ocean keeps their bones. But enough survive to stumble onto new soil, dripping wet, exhausted, blinking at the strange horizon. And suddenly, you're no longer in Africa. The air feels different. The light is harsher, the ground unfamiliar under your feet. Plants don't smell the same. Animals don't look the same. Everything is off balance, like stepping into someone else's dream. But dreams don't fill bellies, so you do what you've always done. Hunt, gather, survive. The prey is unfamiliar. Some are smaller, faster. Some are larger, stranger. You study tracks, test plants, poke at insects with sticks. Trial and error, mostly error. Someone eats the wrong berry and doesn't wake up. Someone gets too close to an animal that looks harmless until it kicks. You learn quickly or you die quickly. Those are the rules. At night, you sit by the fire and realize something strange. You're still alive. Against the odds, you've carried your fragile body across a sea into a land no human has ever touched before. Your footprints are the first. You don't think about history, but history is already happening under your cracked heels. And here's the cruel joke. You thought leaving Africa would solve your problems. It doesn't. The hunger, the predators, the endless walking, they've all followed you here. Survival doesn't care what continent you're on. It just keeps demanding more. Still, something important has changed. You've broken the seal. You've stepped into the wider world, and soon your kind will spill across it. Asia, Europe, islands, mountains, forests. Slowly, painfully, stubbornly, humanity starts to spread. For now, though, you're just a soggy, exhausted traveler, staring into the fire and wondering if tomorrow's hunt will actually feed you this time. Spoiler, probably not. The landscape changes again. Mountains rise, deserts expand, rivers split into narrow channels, and the air tastes different. Dry, sharp, a little metallic. You squint at the sun, feel it beating down differently than it ever did back home. You're no longer African in any sense except origin. You're something new, a wanderer in a strange, unforgiving land. Travel is slower here. The terrain is jagged, filled with rocky valleys and steep passes. You stumble, scrape your knees, bleed onto stones that don't forgive. The animals are cautious, clever, and less predictable. Camels aren't domesticated yet. Goats aren't roaming in pens. Every creature seems to have a defense you haven't figured out. You learn through bruises, hunger, and bitter lessons. Water becomes precious again. Rivers are fewer, streams hidden, oases sporadic. You spot one in the distance and rush, only to find it half dry, surrounded by the bones of animals that didn't survive the day. The Middle East has no patience for weakness, no compassion for ignorance. You drink carefully, ration cautiously, and move on, because standing still equals dying. Nighttime brings new fears. Wolves prowl, their eyes glinting in the firelight. Scorpions and snakes patrol the rocks while you try to sleep. Your body is still recovering from the sea crossing, the deserts, the long march from Africa, but your mind knows it can't rest for long. The landscape is unforgiving. The Middle East doesn't wait. Hunting here is different. Game is faster, smarter, and the plants are stranger. Some berries turn your stomach into a revolt. Some roots taste like dirt, but at least keep you alive. You learn to recognize which animals you can stalk, which ones you can't. You build simple traps, sharpened sticks, and learn to cooperate. Hunting alone is death. The group moves as a single organism, small but determined, learning to survive together in a land that tests every skill you thought you had. At night, by the fire, the conversation is minimal. Gestures, grunts, pointing. You're learning the language of survival. Food, danger, direction, sleep. Every day is a negotiation with this new world. Every day is proof that you've adapted just enough to stay alive. And yet, a strange feeling creeps in. The Middle East is a crossroads. From here you can see mountains leading to Europe, deserts leading to Asia, rivers flowing to coasts you've never touched. The world seems bigger, terrifyingly bigger, and yet full of possibility. You are still small, fragile, hungry, but each step forward is a claim. This land, unknown and dangerous, is now a place where your kind can survive. One day, thousands of years later, humans will call this region civilization's cradle. For now, it's just dust, rock, and the stubborn will to live. Congrats, you're no longer in Africa, and you've survived enough to prove that leaving wasn't a mistake, at least not yet. Leaving Africa and reaching the Middle East was only the beginning. The world beyond offers more than new land. It offers new climates. You thought you understood heat, cold, rain, wind, but you were naive. Now every step forward is a negotiation with elements that don't care if you survive. Mountains rise in your path, dust giving way to rocky slopes. You climb, scrape your hands, your feet slip, and you curse gravity in a language no one else understands. The higher you go, the thinner the air becomes, the colder the nights, the sharper the wind biting at your skin. You wrap yourself in skins, shiver by fires, and think bitterly. You survived deserts. You survived the sea, and now this. Nature has a twisted sense of humor. Rivers become fewer, streams hidden, snow starts appearing at high altitudes, and you learn quickly that cold kills differently than heat. Heat makes you desperate. Cold makes you slow. Slow is dangerous. You huddle together at night, trying not to think about frostbite, while frost glitters on the rocks around your fire like silent, mocking eyes. New animals appear too. Some huge, some fast, some dangerous. You track herds of deer or antelope, watch for lions or leopards, avoid packs of wolves. Each encounter teaches you humility, a misstep, and your food. Not metaphorically, literally. You can't pretend you're clever, you can only be careful. Plants confuse you. Roots that sustained you in one land make you sick in another. Some berries are sweet, others are poisonous. You learn, painfully, which to eat and which to spit out. Survival here requires experimentation, intuition, and stubborn luck. Hunting evolves. Spears, traps, stalking. Your group adapts. You communicate silently, gestures sharper than words. Coordination becomes key, because one mistake in these climates can cost life. Food is scarce, calories precious, fire essential. You begin to understand that survival is not about strength. It's about knowledge, observation, patience, and luck. Lots of luck. And then there's the rain. The Middle East and Asia aren't deserts everywhere. Some lands are wet, soggy, and strange. Mud sticks to your feet. Rivers flood without warning. Storms howl at night, tearing at the flimsy shelters you build. Sleep is interrupted. Clothes, if you can call animal skins that, never dry. Life becomes a constant negotiation with water, with wind, with cold. Yet, through all this, you move forward. Your body remembers Africa. Your mind anticipates the unknown. Each new climate is a puzzle you must solve. Some members of your group don't adapt. They fall behind, and you either wait, risking everyone's survival, or push on. The choice is brutal but necessary. Survival is selfish, in a quiet, constant way. By the time you reach the plains beyond the mountains, your body is hardened, your skin is weathered, your eyes are sharper, your senses finely tuned. You are no longer just a wanderer, you are a survivor, and the world, vast and indifferent, has already taught you more lessons than you thought you could endure. Congrats. You've crossed deserts, rivers, seas, mountains, and storms. And yet, this is only the beginning. There are still lands to conquer, climates to survive, and new challenges waiting just over the next ridge. After weeks, maybe months, of constant movement, your legs ache, your shoulders scream from carrying makeshift tools and hunted prey, and your mind buzzes with the endless calculation of survival. And yet, somewhere along a fertile plain or a river valley, you pause. Not because you want to, but because your body demands it. You've earned a moment of stillness, temporary, fragile, but necessary. You begin to explore the immediate surroundings. The soil smells rich and dark, a promise of plants that might feed you. Trees offer fruits and shelter. Rocks and mud can be molded into rudimentary dwellings. You don't call it home, not yet, but it is safety for now. Safety, in this time and place, feels revolutionary. Hunting is still vital. The animals are plentiful here, but smarter than you expected. You set traps, sharpen sticks, and hunt in coordinated groups. Sometimes success tastes sweet. Other times, disappointment lingers, bitter and sharp, like the dry wind across the plain. Every failure teaches something: a new hiding spot for prey, a better method for tracking, a smarter path to water. Water is close, a blessing and a curse. Rivers provide life, but attract predators. You must balance risk and reward. Drink, wash, and stay alert for crocodiles, leopards, or anything else that stalks the banks. Nights are quieter than the deserts and mountains, but not peaceful. The sound of distant howls, rustling leaves, and snapping branches remind you that danger never sleeps. You begin to notice the land's subtle signs. Certain plants bloom after rains. Certain insects swarm near water. Certain animal tracks indicate predators are close. Survival isn't just brute strength anymore. It's observation, pattern recognition, and quiet understanding of the ecosystem you temporarily inhabit. You are learning to read the land like a book, one harsh, unrelenting page at a time. Temporary shelters arise, piles of sticks, animal skins stretched over stones, shallow pits for fire. Comfort is minimal, but the fire gives warmth and safety, and a small sense of control over a world that has otherwise been indifferent to your existence. Nights are spent close to the flames, bodies huddled, eyes scanning for threats, ears straining to catch the faintest rustle. Communication evolves, words, grunts, gestures, signals, all sharpened by necessity. Cooperation is no longer optional, it's survival. You share knowledge of edible plants, of animal behavior, of water sources. You share warmth, fire, and vigilance. The group becomes a unit, a small society forged by danger, necessity, and stubborn will. And yet, even in this temporary settlement, restlessness stirs. Some individuals gaze toward distant hills or rivers, feeling the ancient urge to keep moving. The world beyond is vast, full of new dangers, new resources, and unknown climates. You know this pause cannot last forever. Survival demands mobility as much as strategy, knowledge as much as strength. For now, though, you take what you can. You sleep deeper than you have in months, wake with renewed energy, and learn to turn raw land into something almost manageable. Each day is repetition: forage, hunt, drink, sleep, observe. But each day adds layers of understanding and resilience. You are no longer just fleeing or wandering. You are learning to bend the environment to your needs, however modest those needs may be. Congrats. You've stopped long enough to survive, long enough to learn, and long enough to prove that adaptation is more than instinct. It's patience, observation, and careful, relentless attention to the world around you. But as you glance toward the distant horizon, you know the pause is temporary. The world is still wide, wild, and indifferent, and soon you'll move again. The pause in the river valley has taught you patience, but you can feel it. The world beyond calls. Mountains loom in the distance, deserts stretch under the sun, and rivers twist toward lands unseen. Something ancient and insistent pushes your group forward. Survival isn't enough anymore. You are moving because it is what humans do: expand, explore, and endure. The journey into Asia is a harsh one. Landscapes change faster than you can track. Rocky passes give way to dense forests, and then to wide plains that seem endless. Water sources are fewer, predators more varied, and the weather less predictable. Snow dusts high peaks while deserts glare with blinding sun. Your body remembers Africa's heat but struggles with cold winds and slippery ice. Crossing rivers is a new challenge. Some are shallow and forgiving, others roar and bite, dragging sticks, stones, and unfortunate travelers downstream. You improvise. Logs lashed together, animal skins inflated like crude flotation devices. Some fail, dragged under by current and greed or haste, and the group swears silently for the unlucky souls swallowed by the water. Survival is cruelly selective, and you begin to understand that fortune is as important as skill. Animals are everywhere and nowhere. Tigers, wild boars, elephants, wolves, all are different from what you've hunted before. Some are larger, stronger, faster. Some are clever, elusive, and downright dangerous. Tracking them requires patience, observation, and cooperation, as a single mistake could be fatal. Hunting in unfamiliar lands is no longer instinctive. It is careful calculation, trial and error, and often brutal luck. Food is scarce in stretches. Sometimes you go days on minimal nourishment, gnawing roots and leaves that barely sustain you. Other times, rivers and plains provide sudden bounty: fish, nuts, fruits, and prey. Each feast is tempered by the memory of hunger, each meal a reminder that abundance is temporary and fragile. The forests are a strange, ominous world. Trees tower above, sunlight filtering through leaves in patterns that disorient you. Every rustle might be a predator, every shadow a threat. Insects swarm relentlessly, bites making your skin itch, sting, and swell. You learn to move quietly, to read the subtle signals of the environment, and to respect the hidden dangers of the forest. Nighttime is a test of endurance. Cold descends faster here, and predators are more daring. Wolves circle, leopards stalk. Even birds seem to watch with sharp, unblinking eyes. Sleep is fitful. Fires burn low. The group huddles for warmth, whispering about distant lands, food, and water. Every night is both a trial and a lesson in survival. And yet, the land offers glimpses of promise. Rivers glint like silver threads, valleys hint at fertile soil, and distant mountains shelter game. You are learning to map the unknown world, both physically and mentally, tracking food, water, and safe paths. Each new step into Asia is an accumulation of knowledge and resilience, hard-earned and essential. By the time your feet are battered, your hands blistered, and your body exhausted, you begin to realize that Asia is vast, diverse, and strange. You are no longer just surviving. You are navigating a complex web of climates, animals, and resources, stretching the limits of what humanity can endure. Congrats. You've left the familiar behind, crossed multiple ecosystems, and begun to claim a foothold in a continent that will shape your species' future. The journey is far from over, but each step proves that humanity's defining trait isn't strength, fire, or tools. It is stubbornness, relentless, patient, and defiant stubbornness. Asia is not just vast, it is merciless. As you push further north and east, the climate changes dramatically. The sun no longer burns with the same intensity. Instead, sharp winds cut across plains, and forests rise like dark, endless walls. You feel the cold in your bones, in a way the African heat never managed. It slows you, stiffens your fingers, and steals sleep from your nights. Shelter becomes essential. Simple piles of sticks and skins won't suffice for the cold. You dig shallow pits, line them with leaves, and attempt crude insulation using every animal hide available. Fires are precious, carefully maintained, and the nights are spent constantly tending flames. Sleep is fitful. The cold sneaks in despite every precaution. You curse the wind, curse the snow, curse the bitter lessons of survival that never stop coming. Food is trickier here. Game is abundant in the forests, but clever and dangerous. Deer and boar hide among thick trees. Predators like wolves and tigers are more cunning. You develop new strategies, tracking silently, setting traps in clever paths, hunting in coordinated groups. Every hunt carries risk. One misstep, and you could be food yourself. Hunger and danger are constant companions. Water is still essential, but now it comes frozen or buried beneath snow. Melting it takes effort, firewood, and time, luxuries you barely have. You discover that patience is just as important as speed. Rush too much and frostbite or dehydration catches you. Move too slowly and predators do. Everything becomes a calculated balance. Clothing evolves. Skins are sewn together into crude garments. You wrap yourself head to toe, improvising gloves and boots. Frostbite is a real threat, and fingers are precious tools. A single injury could jeopardize hunting, building, or even simple survival. You curse the cold, but admire its clarity. It leaves no room for error. The forests themselves are a lesson in humility. Trees tower above like silent sentinels, and shadows play tricks on your mind. Rustling leaves are never innocent. Birds circle overhead, croak warnings, or dive into prey. Every sound, every scent, every pattern is a potential danger or opportunity. You learn to read the forest like a living map, memorizing safe paths, predator signs, and locations of edible plants. Cooperation becomes even more critical. Groups huddle together at night, share fire, food, and knowledge. Communication evolves. Subtle gestures, soft warnings, quiet signals. Trust is mandatory. You cannot survive alone in these cold forests. Every individual contributes to the group's survival, and every failure is a reminder that humanity is strongest when it works as a unit. Even small victories feel monumental. A successful hunt, a fire that holds overnight, a day without injury. Each accomplishment is a reminder that adaptation is possible. Your body grows stronger, more resilient, your mind sharper, more alert. Survival here is not just physical. It is mental, emotional, and social. You learn to anticipate danger, respect the forest, and value the quiet moments of safety. And yet, the forests are only the beginning. They prepare you for harsher challenges, colder climates, open tundras, and landscapes even more unfamiliar. Each day of adaptation teaches lessons in patience, observation, and resilience. You are no longer just a wanderer. You are a navigator of climates, a reader of terrain, a survivor of extremes. Congrats! You've entered forests that punish mistakes, learned to survive cold and predators, and turned fear into knowledge. The journey continues, but each step into these unfamiliar lands proves something fundamental. Humanity's greatest strength is its ability to adapt, endure, and persist. As you move deeper into the forests and plains of Asia, the world around you becomes stranger and wilder. The animals here are unlike anything you've seen before. Some are familiar shapes and unfamiliar sizes, others entirely alien. You begin to understand that survival is no longer just about finding food or water. It's about learning the behavior of creatures that could kill you in an instant. Predators loom everywhere. Wolves travel in packs, moving with eerie coordination and intelligence that rivals your own. Tigers stalk silently, muscles rippling beneath striped fur, disappearing and reappearing like ghosts. Bears roam, unpredictable and dangerous, while birds of prey circle above, sharp eyes searching for weaknesses. Every encounter forces caution, patience, and sometimes brutal trial and error learning. You begin to respect their power and fear it. But it's not just predators that challenge you. New herbivores appear, enormous and unfamiliar. Elephants thunder through valleys, their sheer size demanding respect and careful navigation. Deer and antelope move with uncanny speed and grace, often in areas where hunting is treacherous. The food chain feels taller here, more complex, and less forgiving. Each interaction, successful or failed, teaches lessons you cannot afford to forget. Insects and smaller creatures are relentless. Swarms of biting flies, stinging ants, and hidden spiders test your endurance. Some carry disease, others just irritate, but all require constant attention. You learn which plants soothe bites, which leave permanent marks, and which signal danger. Even the smallest creatures now demand respect. Survival is no longer just about size or strength. It's about awareness, vigilance, and humility. Fish, too, are different. Rivers teem with species you've never seen, some edible, some poisonous. You experiment cautiously, tasting small amounts, watching for reactions. Your knowledge grows not from books or words, but from lived experience, painful, slow, and exacting. And yet, the rivers provide sustenance, as long as you approach them wisely. Occasionally, animals provide unintended lessons. Watching predators hunt teaches strategy and patience. Observing herbivores shows patterns of movement and shelter. Each species, in its own way, instructs you in survival. You begin to mimic behaviors, anticipate movements, and respect the ecosystem as a complex, interlocking web. Every misstep is a teacher, every success a rare reward. Encounters are not always life-threatening, but the fear of death shapes every decision. You cannot afford negligence. Stepping into tall grass, you scan for eyes, tracks, or broken foliage. Every sound makes your heart skip. Every rustle in the undergrowth triggers instinct and strategy. You are constantly calculating risk, balancing hunger with caution, curiosity with self-preservation. Sometimes, new species surprise you. A creature harmless in appearance might prove aggressive. A massive herbivore could turn deadly when cornered. You develop a cautious respect for all life, knowing that in this environment, underestimating a creature is a mistake you may never recover from. Interaction with animals evolves into a form of education. You note migration patterns, feeding habits, and signs of disease or danger. This knowledge becomes a form of survival currency. Each day, each encounter, teaches you what to pursue, what to avoid, and how to maneuver in a world where every step can lead to nourishment or death. Congrats, you've expanded your understanding of life on Earth. Predators, prey, and the smallest insects are now teachers, reminders, and challenges. In Asia, every animal encounter sharpens your senses, builds patience, and reinforces the hard truth. To survive, you must observe, learn, and respect the rules of an ecosystem far older and more complex than you. Survival in Asia demands more than instinct. It demands ingenuity. The cold, the predators, the unfamiliar terrain, all of it forces you to reconsider how you approach the world. Tools are no longer simple conveniences. They are lifelines. Fire is no longer just warmth or light. It is a weapon, a shield, a necessity. You begin with fire, not just building it, but managing it with precision. The wind is sharper here, extinguishing careless flames in an instant. You learn to gather dry wood under snow, to protect embers and hollowed-out logs, to transfer fire without losing it. Nights are still long, but a well-maintained fire keeps wolves at bay, warms the huddled group, and preserves some sense of hope in an otherwise brutal landscape. Tools evolve too. Stones are shaped into axes, knives, and scrapers with deliberate strikes. Bones become needles, hooks, and levers. Every tool has a purpose, every strike a calculated motion. You experiment constantly. Sharpen too much and the stone breaks, too little and it fails to perform. Failure is painful but necessary. Survival teaches you patience, precision, and persistence. Hunting becomes an exercise in both tool use and observation. Spears and arrows extend your reach. Traps allow you to exploit patience, and fire drives animals into predictable patterns. You are learning not just to react, but to plan. A successful hunt is a complex orchestration of strategy, knowledge of terrain, and understanding of animal behavior. Hunger sharpens your mind like the edges of a stone blade. Shelter, too, becomes more sophisticated. Fires are positioned strategically to deter predators and provide warmth. Walls of sticks, mud, and leaves offer insulation against the cold, while platforms and raised sleeping areas protect against dampness and crawling threats. You realize that each improvement increases your odds of surviving the night and the next. Every day, the integration of tools and fire becomes more intuitive, scraping hides, preparing food, cutting wood, crafting weapons. All these tasks are interwoven. You move through them almost unconsciously, yet each motion carries life or death consequences. One slip could mean frostbite, infection, or failure to feed the group. Skill is not optional, it is survival. But there is also a dark humor to this evolution. Your ancestors in Africa never imagined that fire would become a strategic resource against snow and wolves. Stone blades that once chipped meat now pry frozen hides, split wood, and fend off beasts. There is irony in your adaptability, a reminder that life rarely follows expectations, and survival demands creativity tempered with caution. In these forests and plains, learning is iterative. Mistakes leave marks, burns, scratches, bruises, but knowledge grows faster than fear. Every fire that holds, every tool that functions, every trap that succeeds reinforces the lesson. Humans are not the strongest creatures, not the fastest, not the biggest, but our cleverness, adaptability, and patience allow us to endure. You also begin to see fire as a psychological tool. Its light extends your vision, allowing you to see predators before they see you. Its warmth reduces stress, brings comfort, and fosters social bonds. Groups gather around it, share knowledge, strategize, and laugh quietly at the absurdity of their precarious existence. Fire is survival, but also culture, community, and resilience in the face of relentless adversity. Congrats! You've turned simple elements, stone, bone, wood, and flame, into instruments of survival. In Asia, skill with tools and fire is no longer optional. It defines life and death. You are learning the essence of human ingenuity, to manipulate your environment, to anticipate danger, and to endure where others would fail. Every sharpened stone and controlled flame is a step forward, a proof that adaptation and intelligence are the true weapons in this unforgiving world. Asia is not just cold forests and hidden predators. It is a land of obstacles designed to test endurance, patience, and ingenuity. Rivers slice through valleys like silver knives, their waters swift, icy, and merciless. Mountains rise abruptly, jagged and unwelcoming, forcing you to rethink every step. Crossing these barriers is no simple stroll. It is a negotiation with nature itself, a challenge that spares no one who underestimates it. Rivers are deceptively dangerous. At first glance, the water seems manageable, sparkling and inviting, but the current is strong, carrying unseen debris that can pin, drag, or drown. You learn quickly that crossing requires more than courage. It requires strategy. Rocks and logs are used as stepping stones, sometimes precariously, sometimes cleverly anchored. You scout both banks, test depths with sticks, and teach each other to move as a unit. One misstep, and the river will teach a lesson in the harshest way. Bridges of ice form in winter, but they are treacherous, shifting under weight, cracking with a loud, ominous snap. You tread lightly, heart hammering, senses sharp for the slightest change in sound or texture. Every river crossing becomes a careful choreography of timing, weight, and patience. You curse the cold water, admire its power, and learn to respect it. Crossing isn't just survival. It is a mental exercise in calculation and courage. Mountains, on the other hand, are relentless. Steep inclines, jagged cliffs, and unpredictable weather make every ascent a test of strength and coordination. You craft primitive climbing tools, lash ropes from vines, and develop a keen sense of footing. Every rock you place, every ledge you cling to, feels like a negotiation with gravity itself. Mistakes are punished with scrapes, broken limbs, or worse. The mountain does not forgive carelessness. Snowfall adds another layer of complexity. Trails disappear, landmarks vanish, and orientation becomes a challenge. You mark paths with stones, scratches on trees, or piles of snow. Visibility is reduced, and every step is slower, more deliberate. Hypothermia is a constant threat. You discover that timing is crucial. Move too slowly and the cold saps your energy. Move too quickly and exhaustion or injury becomes a risk. Rivers and mountains are not just physical obstacles. They are teachers. They force coordination, communication, and observation. Groups learn to share knowledge, which rocks hold under pressure, which vines support weight, which slopes are prone to avalanches. Mistakes are shared, lessons remembered, and techniques refined. Survival is no longer just individual skill. It is collective intelligence in motion. Animals complicate the journey. Bears hibernate in caves along mountain paths. Wolves patrol riverbanks, and birds give away predator locations. You learn to move quietly, anticipate wildlife, and recognize signs of danger. Every sound and shadow becomes meaningful, every footprint a message. Crossing is not simply about terrain, it is about understanding and negotiating an entire ecosystem. Water, snow, and elevation also affect your body. Muscles fatigue, joints stiffen, and fingers and toes are at constant risk of frostbite. Hunger makes every climb harder. You adjust diet, rest, and rationing accordingly. You realize that survival is holistic. Mental acuity, physical strength, and social cooperation must align to overcome these barriers. Yet, there are small triumphs. A river crossed without injury, a mountain pass successfully navigated, a group that reaches shelter before a storm, these moments feel monumental. They are the quiet victories of planning, skill, and endurance. And sometimes, humor emerges, cursing a slippery log, slipping into a river with a laugh, or watching someone's careful climb end in a soft, harmless tumble. The dark humor of survival keeps spirits alive. Congrats. Rivers are no longer just water, and mountains no longer just rocks. They are tests, teachers, and milestones. Each successful crossing proves that you, your group, and your ingenuity can meet nature's challenges. You are not just moving across Asia, you are learning to exist within it, mastering its lessons, and becoming more than a wanderer. You are becoming a survivor. Asia tests you not only with rivers and mountains, but with the raw, uncontrollable force of weather. The sky is a volatile actor in your journey, shifting from deceptively calm to violently chaotic without warning. Rain, snow, wind, and storms are constant companions, and sometimes relentless adversaries. Survival depends on reading the clouds, feeling the temperature change, and anticipating what the air is trying to tell you. Ignore it, and you quickly learn that nature does not negotiate. Rain is deceptively simple, but insidious. A drizzle feels harmless at first, almost refreshing, but it soon seeps into clothing, saturates shelter, and chills the body. Mud forms underfoot, slowing every step, making rivers rise faster and paths more treacherous. You learn to waterproof with leaves, position fire and shelter wisely, and ration energy carefully. A wet night is more dangerous than any predator. It saps strength, erodes morale, and makes every movement a challenge. Storms escalate the stakes. Thunder rumbles like the earth itself is warning you. Lightning cuts through the sky with terrifying speed, and gusts of wind push against you as if testing your balance. Trees sway and groan, rivers swell unpredictably, and even your fire, the lifeline of warmth and protection, struggles to survive. You huddle, shivering, wondering whether the storm will pass or punish you further. And yet, storms teach patience. You learn to wait, to read patterns, and to respect forces larger than your own strength. Snow introduces a different set of dangers. Deep powder hides crevasses, icy layers conceal dangerous slopes, and blizzards reduce visibility to nearly nothing. Your footprints vanish almost immediately, forcing reliance on memory, landmarks, and intuition. Fingers and toes numb in minutes, and hypothermia lurks silently. Clothing, shelter, and fire are all tested to the limit, and improvisation becomes mandatory. You realize that snow is not just cold, it is a slow, patient predator. Wind, subtle or violent, becomes both ally and enemy. A steady breeze can cool exhaustion or carry the scent of prey, but strong gusts can knock you down, topple trees, or snuff out carefully nurtured flames. You learn to position yourself strategically, use the wind to mask movement, and anticipate sudden changes. Every step outdoors is now calculated with respect for this invisible but powerful force. Extreme heat is another challenge in certain regions. Dry plains and deserts of Asia create a different battle. Sunburn, dehydration, and blistering terrain require constant vigilance. Water must be found and rationed, shelter is a necessity, and movement often must be scheduled around the sun's intensity. You learn to move slowly, conserve energy, and improvise shade. The environment reminds you that survival is multifaceted. Cold, heat, wind, and precipitation all have equal power to shape your existence. Seasonal shifts teach long-term planning. Monsoon rains flood rivers, block paths, and increase disease risk. Winter snow forces detours, slows hunting, and demands improved clothing and shelter. You start to notice subtle patterns: the way clouds gather, the temperature shifts before a storm, animal behavior predicting weather changes. Survival becomes anticipatory, not reactive. You cannot simply endure, you must predict and adapt. There is also an ironic humor in these struggles. You curse the rain as you sit drenched, laugh at snowdrifts that swallow your carefully placed firewood, or shake your head at the wind that flattens your improvised shelter. Nature's cruelty and absurdity are intertwined. Your body and mind grow resilient not only because of necessity, but because you begin to see the ridiculousness in the struggle and laugh quietly at it. Congrats. Extreme weather is no longer a simple inconvenience. It is a teacher, shaping your instincts, strategy, and perseverance. Storms, snow, wind, and heat sculpt your awareness, refine your tactics, and reinforce the delicate balance between arrogance and humility. In this landscape, mastery of the environment is more than survival. It is adaptation, intelligence, and the subtle humor of enduring against odds that never sleep. Survival in Asia demands more than fire, tools, and shelter. It demands knowledge of the land itself. Rivers, mountains, and weather are only half the challenge. The other half is sustenance. Meat alone cannot always be relied upon, especially when prey is scarce or dangerous. This is where plants become critical, both as nourishment and as medicine. You quickly realize that your eyes, hands, and memory are as important as any weapon or fire. You begin by observing. Plants do not announce themselves as edible or toxic. Some are vibrant and enticing, others dull and hidden, and some hide their danger beneath appealing leaves or berries. Trial and error becomes a slow, careful teacher. Taste tests are deliberate, small nibbles, waiting hours for adverse reactions. Every experience is a lesson in patience, caution, and observation. One mistake could result in mild discomfort, another in serious illness, and the cruelest mistakes can be fatal. Edible roots, leaves, and seeds become lifelines. Tubers that lie underground are dug carefully, cleaned, and roasted over fire. Leaves are boiled or dried to preserve flavor and nutrition. Seeds are crushed, ground, or mixed into porridge. You begin to understand the subtle cycles of the land: which plants thrive after rains, which survive winter frost, which animals favor certain areas, and how this guides your foraging. Medicinal herbs are equally important. Cuts, infections, fevers, and digestive issues are constant threats. You experiment with bitter leaves, pungent roots, and aromatic barks, learning their effects by necessity. Willow bark eases pain, certain mosses help clean wounds, and aromatic herbs stave off insects. Each discovery is a small victory, a way to assert control over vulnerabilities that might otherwise claim life. You also notice irony. The same forest that can kill with a fall, flood, or predator also contains cures in plain sight, hidden remedies for problems you did not anticipate. Foraging is not passive. You move slowly, scanning the ground, examining leaves, noting changes in soil, scent, and animal behavior. You learn to mimic animals. Where birds forage, you look. Where deer graze, you investigate. Observation sharpens awareness. A rustle in the underbrush, a broken twig, or a patch of disturbed soil can indicate edible plants or lurking danger. Awareness is survival. Seasonality governs the calendar of foraging. Spring brings tender shoots and new leaves. Summer offers fruits, berries, and seeds. Fall delivers roots, nuts, and stored nourishment. Winter demands preserved or stored supplies. You learn to plan months in advance, drying herbs and roots, caching seeds, and predicting availability. Hunger teaches foresight as much as desperation. The process is not without hardship or dark humor. You eat bitter, fibrous leaves, gnaw on tough roots, or mistake one plant for another, grimacing as you swallow. You laugh quietly at your own mistakes. Well, that one burned my tongue, but at least it didn't kill me. Food is survival, but survival carries a subtle, persistent absurdity, especially when every meal is a careful negotiation with nature. You also learn social lessons. Sharing knowledge of edible and medicinal plants becomes essential. A solitary mistake could be fatal, but collective wisdom spreads safety. Groups teach, correct, and remember together. Communication, pointing, naming, and demonstrating is as valuable as any spear or fire. Knowledge becomes a currency of survival, passed silently through experience and conversation. Congrats. Plants are no longer just background scenery. They are lifelines, medicines, and markers of understanding. Mastering them means not only nourishing your body, but mastering a portion of the landscape itself. Each edible leaf, each healing herb, each cautious taste is proof of adaptation, observation, and the subtle humor of surviving in a world that is indifferent, often cruel, but occasionally generous to those who watch carefully. Hunting large animals is not a leisurely afternoon activity. It is an intricate, dangerous dance with creatures far stronger, faster, and deadlier than you. Asia offers a variety of challenges. Mammoths lumber across the plains, deer dash through forests, and predators watch from shadows. Every hunt demands planning, patience, and nerves of steel. Spoiler alert, it rarely goes as smoothly as you hope. You start by observing. Tracks in mud, broken branches, flattened grass, and distant calls are all clues. Each hint requires interpretation. Where did the animal go? How many are there? Are they alone or in groups? Mistakes are costly. One misread track can waste hours or put you directly in the path of danger. You learn to read the environment like a book, noticing subtle differences between seasons, animal habits, and terrain features. Groups hunt collectively, each member playing a specialized role. Some drive the prey toward a trap or ambush, while others wait in concealed positions with spears, clubs, or bows. Coordination is essential. A misstep, a loud noise, or a moment's hesitation can turn success into disaster. The thrill of strategy is constant, but so is the looming threat of failure. Hunting is as much mental as it is physical. Spears, sharpened stones, and traps are your allies, but their effectiveness depends on skill. You sharpen edges meticulously, test rope tension, and practice throws. The process is methodical and repetitive. Preparation is survival. Even with weapons in hand, you know the animal's size, strength, and unpredictability can turn the tables instantly. One miscalculation, and the hunter becomes prey. Weather and terrain further complicate hunts. Rain-soaked ground muffles steps, but makes footing treacherous. Snow conceals tracks, but slows the prey. Cliffs, rivers, and forests provide cover for both hunters and hunted. You learn to adapt strategies according to conditions, to move silently, and to anticipate sudden changes. Nature is never neutral. It constantly shifts the odds. The hunt also tests your body. Muscles ache, lungs burn, and your heart pounds in tense anticipation. Chasing a deer up a slope or positioning for a mammoth ambush is exhausting. Fatigue is dangerous because it slows reaction time and sharpness. Your survival depends on timing, observation, and relentless awareness, even when your body wants to collapse. Predators add an ironic twist to hunting. Wolves, bears, and big cats often trail prey or observe hunters. One wrong move can invite a secondary threat. You learn to respect not just your quarry, but all other predators in the environment. Every hunt is a negotiation. You, the prey, and everything lurking around it. Failure has consequences, sometimes subtle, sometimes deadly. There is also dark humor in the hunt. Watching a fellow hunter's careful ambush turn into a messy scramble, slipping in mud or getting startled by a bird, becomes a shared joke. Fear and relief coexist. One moment, terror; the next, laughter. Humor becomes a survival tool in itself, easing tension, building group cohesion, and reminding everyone that life is absurd, fragile, and unpredictable. Success is euphoric but fleeting. Killing a mammoth or deer means hours of processing, carrying, and preserving. Every victory is coupled with labor, skinning, butchering, transporting, and storing. Yet, the satisfaction is immense. Food, warmth, and tools emerge from the hunt. Survival is tangible in the form of meat, bones, and hides, proof of human ingenuity, cooperation, and endurance. Congrats. Hunting is no longer just about killing. It is about strategy, endurance, teamwork, and resilience. Every stalk, every trap, every calculated risk demonstrates the combination of mental acuity and physical prowess necessary to navigate a world that offers nothing for free. You are not just hunting animals, you are negotiating life itself, learning lessons that extend far beyond the forest or plain. Survival in Asia is impossible without a place to rest, hide, and recover. Shelter is more than convenience, it is a lifeline. Mountains, plains, forests, and wetlands all present unique challenges, and your task is to manipulate the environment to create safety where none exists. Spoiler alert, early shelters were far from comfortable. In fact, they were often cold, drafty, and slightly horrifying, but they worked. You begin by choosing a location. Proximity to water, food sources, and safe terrain dictates your options. Too close to rivers, and floods can wash everything away. Too exposed, and predators or storms may find you first. Too dense, and fire smoke suffocates you before it warms you. Every decision carries consequences. You learn quickly that location is just as important as construction skill. Materials are gathered with care. Branches, leaves, animal hides, mud, stone, and even bones become the building blocks of survival. You weigh durability against availability, improvising with whatever the land offers. Heavy timber may offer better protection, but is harder to transport. Leaves and grass insulate but rot quickly. You experiment, adapt, and sometimes fail spectacularly. Collapsing roofs, wind-tossed walls, or waterlogged floors remind you that nature doesn't tolerate mistakes. Shelter design reflects function over form. Simple lean-tos against rock faces protect against wind, but not rain. Pit houses dug into soil conserve warmth but require laborious excavation. Platforms raised on stilts avoid ground moisture and pests. Complexity grows as experience accumulates, but basic principles remain constant: stability, protection from weather, and concealment from predators. The process is physically demanding. Dragging heavy branches, pounding supports into the ground, weaving leaves, and securing skins require strength, coordination, and persistence. Your hands blister, muscles ache, and energy wanes. Yet the reward is undeniable, a space that signals temporary victory over environmental chaos. Every successful shelter is proof of ingenuity, patience, and the stubbornness of human survival instincts. You also learn to incorporate defensive strategies. Elevated platforms or hidden entrances reduce predator encounters. Fires are positioned strategically to deter animals while minimizing smoke exposure. Camouflage, arranging leaves, branches, and stones to blend with surroundings, becomes second nature. Shelter is not just comfort, it is security, survival, and sometimes the thin line between life and death. Weather remains a constant teacher. Rain leaks, snow collapses poorly constructed roofs, wind topples shaky walls. Extreme heat requires ventilation, while cold demands insulation. Fire becomes an extension of the shelter, providing warmth, cooking capabilities, and protection. You adapt designs to seasonal shifts, building modular or temporary structures that can be abandoned or improved as conditions change. Group shelters create social learning opportunities. Building collectively accelerates construction and spreads knowledge. Experienced individuals teach others how to select materials, interlock branches, or reinforce walls. Tasks are divided based on skill, strength, or age. This cooperation strengthens bonds, ensures survival, and establishes subtle hierarchies dictated by skill and ingenuity. There is an ironic humor in early shelter building. Your first attempt may collapse dramatically, leaving you soaking in mud or snow, muttering curses and laughing at your own incompetence. Later, you recognize patterns, adapt, and gain satisfaction from watching your shelter endure rain, wind, or curious predators. Humor softens hardship, reinforces learning, and reminds you that survival is not merely grim, it is also absurd and often laughably inconvenient. Congrats. Shelter is no longer a temporary solution. It is mastery over the immediate environment. Each structure represents knowledge, cooperation, physical effort, and adaptation. You are no longer merely enduring the land. You are negotiating with it, asserting human presence, and crafting a space where survival, however fragile, becomes possible. Shelter is the foundation of everything else: rest, warmth, food preparation, and safety from a world that rarely forgives mistakes. Water is life. You know this instinctively because thirst is an unrelenting, nagging, almost cruel companion. In Asia, rivers, streams, ponds, and rainfall are all potential sources, but not all water is safe. You quickly learn that a careless sip can bring stomach cramps, fever, or worse. Survival depends not just on finding water, but on recognizing which sources are reliable and learning techniques to make them safer. Spoiler alert: safe is relative. You start with observation. Animals often lead the way, following tracks or watching where birds, deer, or other wildlife drink can reveal hidden water pockets. Plants also indicate moisture. Dense greenery often signals a nearby stream or spring. Cave drips, underground pools, and rain collection become vital strategies. Your senses sharpen. You notice subtle soil dampness, moss growth, and the scent of wet earth. Water is never just water. It is a hidden, vital prize, and you treat it with respect. Not all sources are equal. Stagnant ponds or muddy pools carry risks: bacteria, parasites, and pollutants. Flowing rivers are generally safer, but strong currents, predators, and contamination upstream remain threats. You learn to weigh risk versus need. Sometimes a small, uncertain pool is better than no water at all. Thirst is persuasive, but caution often saves lives. Purification becomes a matter of necessity. Boiling is the simplest method, but requires fire, fuel, and containers, resources that may be scarce. Filtration through sand, cloth, or charcoal removes debris, although it does little for microorganisms. Settling allows solids to sink, leaving slightly clearer water on top. These techniques are crude, imperfect, yet they reduce danger and demonstrate human ingenuity in the face of relentless necessity. Rainwater becomes a prized resource. You catch it in leaves, hollowed-out wood, or dug basins. Clean, fresh, and abundant when storms arrive, it reminds you that survival sometimes hinges on patience and observation. You also learn to store water carefully, using natural containers, dug pits, or buried gourds, preserving supply for dry periods. Storage introduces new challenges. Contamination, evaporation, and pests threaten your careful efforts. Water access is tightly linked to daily routines. You plan activities around availability, calculating trips, conservation, and timing. Too far from a source, and your body tires or risks exposure. Too close, and predators may also track the same paths. Your life revolves subtly around a liquid that is both essential and elusive. The irony is always present. Water seems abundant until you need it most. Group survival intensifies the stakes. Shared water sources require coordination, signaling, and sometimes compromise. You may guard, dig, or improve access for the collective. Knowledge of which sources are safe is shared cautiously. Water is literally life, and withholding or mismanaging it has immediate consequences. Cooperation, therefore, becomes essential. Survival is rarely a solo effort. You also discover that water teaches patience and observation. Streams change with seasons, pools dry, and rainfall is unpredictable. Every observation informs decisions: where to camp, when to hunt, or how to move. A misstep in judgment can lead to dehydration, illness, or forced migration. The lesson is clear. Water governs life in subtle but relentless ways. There is humor, though, in the struggle. You scoop muddy water, filter it through leaves, and still grimace at the taste. You joke quietly, well, it won't kill me, probably. Survival is always a mix of seriousness, irony, and absurdity. You adapt, you improvise, and you learn that even small improvements, cleaner water, better storage, feel like monumental victories. Congrats. Mastering water is not just about quenching thirst. It is about observing, interpreting, purifying, storing, and respecting a resource that dictates every choice. Each sip, each filtered drop, each stored cache represents adaptation, intelligence, and subtle negotiation with a world that does not hand life freely. Water is both necessity and teacher, shaping every step, thought, and strategy in the relentless journey of survival. Fire is the lifeline that transforms survival from barely tolerable to marginally comfortable. You wake to smoke curling through the morning air, not because it smells like breakfast, but because without it, cold bites harder, predators come closer, and raw meat stays, well, raw. Fire mastery is not optional, it is essential. Spoiler alert, early humans were obsessed, for good reason. You start by collecting materials. Dry leaves, twigs, and bark are tinder. Branches and logs are fuel. Even the smallest moisture difference can determine success or failure. You learn patience. Frustration is constant, as sparks die before kindling catches. Hands blister, lungs fill with smoke, and fingers smell permanently of char. Yet, triumph comes suddenly. A flicker becomes flame, and you feel invincible, if only briefly. Ignition techniques vary. Rubbing sticks together produces friction. Striking stones creates sparks. Each method demands skill, timing, and persistence. Failure is guaranteed at first, often repeatedly. And yet, success teaches confidence, adaptability, and subtle problem solving. Maybe the bark is too wet. Maybe I need a different angle. Maybe patience is the secret. Fire rewards curiosity and punishes laziness. Once lit, fire transforms life. Raw meat becomes edible, even nutritious. Cold nights soften, frostbite risk diminishes, and early humans find warmth in communal gatherings around flames. Smoke deters insects and predators, serving as an unintentional early security system. Fire is not just utility, it is a symbol of mastery over the environment, a small, flickering rebellion against relentless nature. Cooking itself is an education in timing and chemistry. Meat changes texture and flavor, roots soften, seeds and nuts become digestible. You learn to rotate food over flames, monitor heat, and manage coals. Mistakes are minor burns or overcooked meals, but they are also lessons, and repeated practice ensures gradual perfection. There is a sense of pride in transforming raw, often unpleasant food into sustenance that sustains life. Fire also shapes social life. Gathering around flames encourages cooperation, storytelling, and knowledge sharing. You notice patterns: who controls the fire, who tends it, who cooks, who prepares fuel. Leadership, trust, and hierarchy subtly emerge. Fire becomes a shared resource, central to daily life, and a catalyst for group cohesion. The irony is clear. Survival depends on a volatile element that can just as easily destroy everything. Nighttime brings additional challenges. Firelight is limited, shadows lurk, and embers die if unattended. You develop rotation schedules, improvisation techniques, and fire management skills. Predicting wind direction, monitoring fuel levels, and tending flames under exhaustion or injury become routine. Fire is fickle. It rewards diligence and punishes neglect, teaching patience and responsibility in subtle, relentless ways. Beyond warmth and food, fire protects. Predators fear flame, giving early humans a tactical advantage. Smoke signals may warn or attract others, creating primitive communication networks. The psychological impact is immense. Even the most terrifying environment feels less hostile with a glowing line of protection. Fear is managed, risk mitigated, and survival chances improve, not by magic, but by labor, ingenuity, and relentless observation. There is humor and irony, of course. Early humans often singed eyebrows, burned fingers, or accidentally set hide tents aflame. Laughter echoes in the darkness. Life is terrifying, yet somehow absurdly manageable. Mastery of fire is as much about tempering mistakes as achieving success. Every burnt hand, every collapsing spark, every charred meal is a lesson in humility and persistence. Congrats. Fire mastery is more than a skill. It is transformation. From cold, raw, vulnerable existence to cooked, warm, defended life, fire embodies human resilience, innovation, and cooperation. Each flame represents intelligence, effort, and subtle negotiation with a world that constantly challenges survival. You are no longer just enduring nature, you are bending it, one spark at a time. Hunting is survival. It is also an endless exercise in patience, observation, and mild paranoia. You wake before dawn, muscles stiff, lungs cold, and every sense alert to a landscape that wants to kill you slowly. Prey is not just dinner, it is life itself, and the journey to catch it is often longer and more complex than the reward. Spoiler alert, success is rare, mistakes are frequent, and exhaustion is guaranteed. You begin with observation. Tracks in mud, broken branches, droppings, bent grass, and snapped twigs tell stories. Each footprint hints at size, speed, and direction. Droppings hint at diet and behavior. Snap a branch, and you learn what animals favor or avoid. Senses sharpen to a level you didn't know existed. The smell of damp earth, the subtle shift in wind, the distant crack of a twig under weight, all become critical information. Distance is the first challenge. Prey does not conveniently stop in one place. Tracking requires hours, sometimes days, of careful movement. You move slowly, almost ghost-like, minimizing noise and scent. Every misstep risks alerting the animal and losing the trail. Patience is a weapon, endurance a requirement, and frustration a constant companion. You learn to embrace silence, boredom, and the subtle tension of perpetual vigilance. Terrain complicates pursuit. Forests conceal movement but hide predators. Open plains offer visibility but no cover. Mountains exhaust the body, wetlands threaten to swallow you, and rivers block progress. Every choice, where to step, when to pause, how to adapt, carries immediate consequences. Nature does not negotiate, and error is punished swiftly. Knowledge of animal behavior becomes essential. Migration patterns, feeding schedules, mating habits, and predator-prey dynamics inform decisions. You learn when to stalk, when to wait, and when to abandon pursuit. A deer may appear approachable one day and vanish without warning the next. Wild animals are unpredictable, and early humans learn to respect this unpredictability, adapting strategies continually. Tools and techniques evolve from observation. Spears, traps, snares, and digging pits increase success rates, but each has limitations. Spears require proximity, traps require patience, and snares require understanding of movement patterns. Mistimed strikes or poorly placed traps often fail spectacularly, leaving both prey and ego intact. Learning through failure is the standard curriculum of survival. Hunting is as much mental as physical. You anticipate movement, simulate behavior, and imagine the unseen. Fear, hunger, and cold are constant companions. Your body aches, energy depletes, and sleep becomes a luxury. Yet, awareness of the stakes drives focus. A meal equals life. A miscalculation can mean starvation. The irony is relentless. Survival demands intelligence applied to raw instinct. Group hunting introduces coordination. Strategies include surrounding, driving, or ambushing prey. Roles are divided. Some flush animals, some block escape, others strike. Communication is subtle, often nonverbal. Trust, timing, and skill determine success. Social dynamics play out silently. Leaders emerge, mistakes are noted, and reputation grows or diminishes with every attempt. Hunting becomes both a survival necessity and a measure of social competence. There is dark humor in the chase. Exhausted, muddy, and cold, you may watch prey escape at the last second, silently cursing nature, physics, and your own clumsiness. Hunger sharpens irony. The animal you followed for hours now grazes lazily, unaware of your sacrifice. Survival is rarely poetic. It is relentless, absurd, and when successful, deeply satisfying. Congrats. Mastery of tracking and following prey is not just about filling the stomach. It is about reading landscapes, predicting behavior, enduring hardship, and coordinating effort. Every successful hunt represents intelligence, patience, physical endurance, and subtle negotiation with a world that relentlessly tests the limits of survival. You are no longer merely enduring. Through observation, planning, and persistence, you are actively shaping your own survival. Hunting is only half the battle. Catching prey is thrilling, exhausting, and often heartbreaking. But the real challenge begins once the animal lies before you. Meat spoils quickly, flies swarm, and bacteria lurk. You quickly learn that skill in killing is meaningless without skill in processing, preparing, and preserving your catch. Spoiler alert. Survival depends on both speed and strategy. You start with butchering. Knives, stones, and sharpened bones are your tools. There is an art to separating muscle from bone, skin from flesh, and sinew from organ. Every movement counts. Mistakes waste food, or worse, injure you. Blood drips, guts spill, and the smell is overwhelming. Yet, your body and mind adapt to the chaos. Hands become steady, eyes precise, and stomachs surprisingly resilient. There is dark humor in your grim efficiency. Life is messy, literal, and figurative. Processing meat also involves dividing and rationing. Portions are measured for immediate consumption, communal sharing, and long-term storage. Organs are consumed first, nutrient-dense but perishable. Muscle meat is stripped and prepared for preservation. Bones are reserved for tools, marrow, or future fuel. Nothing goes to waste. Survival instills a respect for utility. Every part of the animal serves a purpose. Preservation is the critical next step. Without modern refrigeration, early humans rely on smoke, salt, drying, and cold storage. Smoking over fire slows bacterial growth. Thin strips of meat hung in wind-drying racks endure longer. Salt, if available, draws moisture from tissues, extending shelf life. Cold climates offer natural refrigeration. Snow, ice, and streams become impromptu storage. Improvisation is constant. You learn that every technique carries trade-offs. Smoke adds flavor but requires constant tending, drying takes days, and cold storage risks thawing or scavenger interference. Timing is everything. Meat must be processed immediately before spoilage begins. In hot climates, urgency is extreme. Even hours of delay can render the catch dangerous to eat. You move quickly, hands slick with blood, mind racing, aware that one misstep can undo hours of effort. Survival is brutal and unforgiving. There is no margin for error. You also develop an instinct for signs of spoilage. Color, texture, smell, and touch become indicators. Grayish patches, slimy surfaces, or sour odors trigger immediate disposal. There is no romance in wasted meat, just grim necessity. Early humans learn to trust their senses implicitly, often making split-second decisions that determine whether meals sustain life or endanger it. Preserving meat transforms survival. It allows mobility. Hunting can take days or weeks, but stored meat bridges gaps between successful kills. It supports larger groups, facilitates trade, and provides a sense of security. Stored provisions are the difference between thriving, merely surviving, and perishing. In this, early humans demonstrate foresight, planning, and subtle innovation. Dark humor persists. You slice, dry, and hang meat while scavengers lurk, curious, greedy, and persistent. Flies, ants, and opportunistic animals test patience. You joke silently, "The world really wants my dinner tonight." Yet, these small irritations teach vigilance and reinforce the delicate balance between effort and reward. Every preserved meal is a victory over both nature and entropy. Processing and preserving meat also strengthen social bonds. Shared labor, division of tasks, and communal meals teach cooperation, negotiation, and subtle hierarchy. Leaders emerge in organizing work. Apprentices learn through observation. Survival is a group enterprise. Irony is constant. The life-giving meat that fuels your survival also fuels relationships, politics, and human connection. Congrats. Mastering meat processing and preservation is more than culinary skill. It is intelligence applied to survival. It combines physical effort, observation, timing, and subtle negotiation with nature's unforgiving rules. Every smoked strip, dried slab, or salted cut represents foresight, ingenuity, and a relentless determination to endure. You are no longer reacting to the environment. You are actively shaping it, turning raw, fleeting opportunity into lasting sustenance. Survival is never just about food. Even with a full stomach, freezing nights, scorching days, and relentless storms remind you that exposure kills as efficiently as hunger. Shelter is both armor and sanctuary, a buffer between fragile human bodies and a world designed to test endurance. Spoiler alert, early humans were brilliant improvisers, and every hut, lean-to, or cave tells a story of adaptation, persistence, and occasional dark humor. You wake to the biting cold of dawn, shivering as wind snakes through trees and across exposed skin. Your first task, maintain or improve your shelter. Materials vary depending on environment. Branches, leaves, mud, stones, and animal hides are the building blocks. Selection is critical. Branches must support weight, leaves must insulate, mud must adhere. A collapsed roof is not a minor inconvenience, it's a near-death lesson. Construction begins with foundations. You learn to create stable frames, often using interlocking branches or leaning supports against natural rock formations. Flexibility is key. Nature rarely provides perfect conditions, so improvisation is constant. Mistakes are messy. A poorly angled beam may snap, mud may crumble, and you develop a healthy respect for gravity. Humor persists. Congratulations, your shelter now resembles abstract art that leaks. Insulation is next. Animal hides, grasses, reeds, and leaves are layered to trap warmth. The goal is simple: reduce heat loss and block wind. You discover that minimal effort can be surprisingly effective, and meticulous attention to detail can mean the difference between shivering or sleeping comfortably. Early humans, through trial and error, learn subtle engineering, even if they don't call it that. Location matters. Shelters are built away from predator trails, flood zones, and exposure-prone hills. Proximity to water is convenient but risky. Rivers flood, and wet ground chills. Sunlight offers warmth in colder climates, but can turn into unbearable heat during summer. Observation, memory, and intuition become vital tools. Mistakes are harsh lessons. Frostbite, storms, or animal encounters reinforce the value of careful planning. Adaptation is continuous. Seasons change, weather fluctuates, and landscapes evolve. Shelters are rarely permanent. They must be rebuilt, modified, or abandoned. Early humans developed flexible construction methods, lightweight but sturdy frameworks, and multi-purpose materials. You begin to understand that survival is about anticipating change, not merely reacting. Dark humor persists. Wind howls, branches creak ominously, and you curse nature's architectural choices. Leaks, sagging roofs, and rodents invading your space are constant reminders that perfection is impossible. Every small inconvenience teaches resilience, patience, and creative problem-solving. You learn to sleep lightly, listen carefully, and adapt quickly. Shelters also create social dynamics. Shared construction fosters cooperation. Knowledge passes from elder to apprentice. Roles emerge naturally. Some gather materials, others assemble, and some maintain the fire inside. Shelters become a hub of social cohesion, negotiation, and subtle hierarchy. Irony is everywhere. The place that protects you also reveals flaws, disputes, and human quirks. Environmental adaptation extends beyond construction. Clothing, fire placement, storage solutions, and dietary adjustments are all part of creating a livable microcosm. Shelter becomes the nucleus around which survival strategies revolve. The line between comfort and catastrophe is thin. neglect insulation and frostbite strikes, ignore drainage and floods destroy meals. Early humans learned vigilance, foresight, and subtle engineering by necessity. Congrats! Mastery of shelter construction and environmental adaptation is more than carpentry. It is intelligence, observation, and persistence applied to survival. Every hut built, every mud wall patched, and every roof reinforced represents negotiation with a world that rarely yields mercy. You are no longer just surviving, you are actively shaping a safe space within a hostile environment, turning vulnerability into strategic advantage. Survival is rarely a solo endeavor. Even the most skilled hunter or the most ingenious shelter builder eventually learns that humans are social creatures. Community is as crucial as food, fire, or clothing. Spoiler alert, cooperation, ritual, and shared knowledge are what elevate early humans from merely surviving to thriving, giving life meaning beyond immediate physical needs. You wake in your shelter to the murmur of your group. Eyes blink slowly in dim light. Movements are quiet but purposeful. Each person plays a role. Some prepare food, others tend the fire, and a few check traps or scout for fresh water. The group operates like a living organism, where coordination is vital and miscommunication can be deadly. Survival depends not just on skill, but on social harmony. Rituals emerge naturally. Sharing food, celebrating a successful hunt, or marking seasonal changes is more than superstition. They are social glue. Around the fire, stories are told. Tales of danger, triumph, and trickery pass knowledge and reinforce bonds. You learn the power of narrative. It teaches, entertains, and warns. The ironic part? These rituals, which feel comforting, often arise from sheer terror and uncertainty about the next meal, the next storm, or the next predator encounter. Communication evolves beyond the practical. Language, gestures, and symbolic expressions allow planning, negotiation, and even humor. A clever hand signal or a subtle nod can save lives. Shared understanding accelerates survival strategies. A new trap design, a better hunting route, or a method to preserve meat spreads quickly. Innovation becomes communal, not individual, because the group ensures continuity. Cooperation has layers. Tasks are divided by skill, strength, or experience, but also by personality and social intelligence. Leaders emerge not just through dominance, but through foresight, patience, and the ability to inspire others. Apprentices learn through observation, imitation, and gentle correction. Irony is everywhere. The strongest hunter might fail socially, while a quieter, less imposing member becomes essential through wisdom and tact. Ritual and community also help manage fear. Nights are long and full of unknown sounds. Fires illuminate a small circle of safety, and the presence of others reduces anxiety. Group knowledge allows preparation for harsh winters, floods, and encounters with predators. You discover that cognitive leaps, planning, abstract thinking, empathy, and strategic foresight are not solitary achievements, but products of social life. Humor and irony thrive here too. Teasing, storytelling, and even mockery strengthen bonds. A failed hunt becomes a cautionary tale, a source of laughter, and a shared lesson. Humans discover that cognitive complexity, memory, prediction, imagination, becomes adaptive when combined with emotional intelligence. Survival is never purely mechanical. It is psychological, social, and moral. Community rituals solidify identity. Symbols, markings, songs, or coordinated hunts differentiate one group from another. You learn loyalty, cooperation, and the subtle consequences of betrayal. These practices increase trust and ensure that the group functions efficiently, even under extreme stress. The dark humor? Early humans, facing constant threats, still find time to argue over trivial matters, proving that human nature was fully alive then, just as it is now. This cognitive leap, the combination of memory, imagination, social intelligence, and ritual, allows early humans to manipulate environments, anticipate challenges, and innovate in ways no other species could. You realize survival is not just reaction, it is planning, teaching, sharing, and imagining the future. Tools, shelters, preserved food, and hunting strategies are all amplified by this collective cognition. Congrats. Mastery of ritual, community, and the cognitive leap represents the pinnacle of early human survival. You are no longer merely a creature responding to nature's whims. You are part of a cooperative, intelligent network that shares knowledge, distributes labor, and mitigates risk. Through shared experience, imagination, and social bonds, early humans transform survival into culture, laying the foundations for everything that comes after.